Welcome to the fictional kingdom of Westeros, or the Seven Kingdoms, where Game of Thrones, or the Game of Throne, the Iron Throne, this very uncomfortable looking chair, takes place. A kingdom ruled of civil war and conflict as a long summer is about to end and the winter draws near. At this moment in time, the land is led by Robert Baratheon, the father of Joffrey, Marcel, and Tommen Baratheon, children he's had with his queen Cersei, but said children were actually fathered by Cersei's twin brother, Jaime Lannister. And Season 1 revolves around Ned Stark's discovery of incest, and kind of Bran Stark's discovery of incest too. Oh, you Starks. Ned Stark, husband of Catelyn Tully, father of Robb, Sansa, Arya, Bran, and Rickon, is the head of House Stark and Warden of the North. We also have Jon, who is said to be his bastard son. Thus, he's called Jon Snow, Snow being the surname of a bastard child in the North, as opposed to Jon Stark. If they only knew. Anyway, our story begins as Ned is asked by his old friend Robert to serve as Hand of the King, following the death of the previous Hand, Jon Arryn. When the Starks receives the king and his followers at Winterfell, Bran discovers the Queen Cersei and her twin brother in a tower, doing the nasty. In order to keep their incest a secret, Jaime pushes Bran out of the window, but Bran doesn't die, he is paralyzed instead. Ned leaves with Robert and takes Sansa and Arya with him, leaving Bran and Rick at Winterfell with Catelyn. Jon Snow then leaves to serve at the Wall, where he eventually makes friends with a man named Sam. Ned finally finds out that Joffrey is not Robert's biological son, as King Robert dies. Ned is then betrayed and charged with treason, and he's then executed. Sansa is captured, but Arya manages to escape dressed as a boy. Robb Stark prepares his armies to avenge his father and manages to capture Jaime Lannister. The War of the Five Kings begins. Across the sea, the last Targaryens plan to return to Westeros. Viserys marries his sister Daenerys to Khal Drogo with warriors in return. Nobody likes Viserys, and he eventually gets his golden crown when he's killed by molten gold. A golden crown for a king. Daenerys is forced to kill Khal Drogo after he's turned into a catatonic vegetable, and she burns his body and walks into the flames. Season 1 of Game of Thrones ends with Daenerys being alive and well, rising from the ashes with 3 newly hatched dragons, now a serious contender with a claim to the Iron Throne. Joffrey Baratheon, or Joffrey Lannister, holds the Iron Throne. The king in the north, Robb Stark, declares that the north and the Riverlands are no longer subject to the rule of the Iron Throne. He marches south, leaving his home to his trusted comrade, Theon Greyjoy. Stannis and Renly Baratheon gathers their armies, while Balon Greyjoy, king of the Iron Islands, tries to take over the north in the Starks' absence. Meanwhile, the shady Peter Baelish smiles because it is revealed that he actually started the war to fuel his own interests. At Winterfell, Theon Greyjoy sees the opportunity to take the castle and betrays House Stark. Bran and Rickon escapes with the help of Hodor and a wildling woman. Theon basically does a lot of stupid things. Sansa is still stuck in King's Landing, and Arya is roaming in the countryside while making some new friends. In the east, Daenerys looks for new allies. She is eventually betrayed but uses the money she has to sail away with the dragons, Ser Jorah, and their last supporters. Stannis tries to attack King's Landing but loses to the Lannisters, their wildfire, and support from House Tyrell. It's worth to mention that Joffrey does nothing in the entire battle. In the north, Sam falls in love with a pregnant woman named Jilly, and Jon is separated from the Night's Watch and finds himself in wildling territory where he meets a girl named Ygritte. Season 2 of Game of Thrones ends with a shot of the White Walkers descending in great numbers towards the wall, reminding us of the horrors to come. Short recap of Season 3, a lot of important people dies this season. Joffrey Baratheon now commands the largest armies of the realm, with the support of the Lannister and the Tyrells. The Tyrells teamed up with the Lannisters after Renly was killed by what seemed to be Stannis' shadow. Sansa Stark is forced to marry Tyrion Lannister in order to bind the House of Lannister to another great house in the Seven Kingdoms. Catelyn asks Brienne, who wants to avenge Renly, to free Jaime Lannister in exchange for Sansa and Arya. Unbeknownst to her, Arya is actually roaming around in the Riverlands, trying to find her family. Meanwhile, Robb Stark tries to win allegiance with House Frey to try to attack the Lannisters' home, Castle Rock. In order to do so, one of Robb's men has to marry one of Frey's daughters. The Stark army arrives at the seat of the House Frey for the wedding. Then the Rains of Castamere begins playing, and the Lannisters send their regards as Catelyn, Robb, his pregnant lover Talisa, is mercilessly slain. As the army is killed and a blood is spilled, Arya is just outside, so close to her family. Needless to say, this entire sequence is impossible to forget. In the north, Jon confesses his love for Ygritte before he runs from the wildlings to warn the Night Watch of their impending attack. To the west, Daenerys literally burns the slave master and now has control of 3 dragons and an army of untold soldiers. The War of the Five Kings is about to end. Robb and Catelyn are dead, betrayed by the Freys and Boltons, and dead with them is the majority of the Stark forces. Robb is dubbed the king who lost the north. Arya is traumatized and wanders around yet again in the company of the Hound. Sansa is still stuck in King's Landing, also traumatized by the news from family. Joffrey is king, but the Lannisters actually rule the land. The Lannisters are dependent on the Tyrells and their armies, and Joffrey and Margaery Tyrell is to marry. Don't ever get married in Game of Thrones because then they'll die. Joffrey chokes on his poisoned drink and promptly dies. Yay! Tyrion is blamed for his death, and Sansa sees the opportunity to escape with the help of Littlefinger. Oberyn fights for Tyrion and to avenge his sister in a trial by combat but is killed. Tyrion is sentenced to death but escapes the city after killing his father with the help of Jaime and the Master of Whispers, Varys. To the west, Daenerys acts like queen of the city of Meereen and struggles with that. She is forced to lock her dragons in the catacombs. They're growing fast and proving to be hard to control. Meanwhile, in the north, Ramsay Bolton goes to the north to prove himself to his father and takes Theon hostage and tortures him. Bran and his new followers goes beyond the wall in search for the Raven Bran sees in his vision. Jon and a Night's Watch manages to push back the wildling army. Ygritte dies in Jon's arms. Stannis Baratheon arrives by the wall with his remaining army, taking the leader of the wildlings prisoner. Westeros is on the brink of collapse. Tywin Lannister is dead by Tyrion's hand, Joffrey is dead, and Tommen Baratheon becomes king instead. Tommen is the only one left in succession, as Myrcella is poisoned and killed by Ellaria Sand, now ruler of Dorne. The Dorne people hate the Lannisters for good reason. The wars have ruined the land. The people in it started to channel their frustration into religion. Cersei Lannister is now Queen Regent. She approves of the revival of the faith militant, which blows up in her face as she is imprisoned for committing sins, so that kinda sucks for her. Shame. Arya takes a ship to the free city of Braavos and begins training with the Faceless Men. Tyrion arrives in Essos, persuaded by Varys to support Daenerys and get revenge on the land who hates him so. Persuaded and sort of kidnapped by Ser Jorah. Dany takes him in as an advisor. Daenerys' rule is attacked by the Sons of the Harpies. She is cornered and about to die, but Drogon rushes in to save her. She flies away on his back, pretty awesome, but he dumps her right in time to get captured by the Dothraki army. Back in Westeros, Littlefinger gives Sansa to the Boltons at Winterfell in order to make an alliance. Theon is still a captive of Ramsay, but begins the path to redemption when he saves Sansa from Ramsay's abuse. Ramsay's army smashes Stannis, and Stannis Baratheon is killed by Brienne of Tarth. Jon is now Lord Commander of the Night's Watch and fights with the Wildlings against the White Walkers. Some regard him as a traitor and is stabbed and left to die. The White Walkers are still coming. Jon Snow actually does die, but is survived by Melisandre, the Red Woman, and is dubbed the Prince who was promised, and a god, but not by Tormund. This is basically the only time most of us likes Melisandre. Sansa and Theon are chased by Ramsay's men, but is saved by Bran and her follower Podrick. Theon goes back home, and Sansa continues north and is finally reunited with Jon after 6 seasons. Speaking of Starks, Bran is training with the Three-Eyed Raven beyond the wall and is now able to see what happened in the past. It is revealed that Jon Snow is actually not Ned Stark's son, but his sister Lyanna's. And who's the father? That might be Rhaegar Targaryen, the man who supposedly kidnapped her. Dun, dun. The theory here is that they might have been in love. Arya refuses to be a faceless man no more and returns to the Westeros, getting revenge for her brother and mother's murders by killing Walder Frey. In King's Landing, Tommen is now influenced by the Faith too. Cersei is the trial for her sins, but wants nothing of that. She uses wildfire to blow up the set, killing everyone in it. Rest in peace, the Tyrell bloodline. Tommen does a King's Landing out of the window. Cersei is now crowned Queen of Westeros and is more dangerous than ever. Speaking of queens, Daenerys escapes to the Dothraki by burning their leaders alive. Theon and his sister Yara join Daenerys' fleet. Daenerys finally makes her way towards the Seven Kingdoms. Jon Snow beats Ramsay's forces and wins back Winterfell with Sansa and the Wildlings as help. The castle is back where it belongs, and Jon is named King in the North. A White Raven arrives, and after 6 seasons, winter has finally come. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed this just as much as I enjoyed making it, even though it did take me quite a while. It turns out it's pretty difficult to fit 6 seasons of info in 6 minutes. Who knew 1 minute was so short? I also tried to make this video 8 minutes because there will be 8 seasons of Game of Thrones. You know, I thought that it might be fun. But no one probably cares about that, let's be real. Anyways, if you like this video, make sure to leave a like or a comment or possibly both. Please let me know if you want me to make more Game of Thrones videos in the future. I can't wait for Game of Thrones Season 7. Sadly, we do have to wait, but oh well. And you're all welcome to subscribe and follow me on Twitter, and we'll all geek about it together. Thank you again for your time. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all next time.